We are thrilled to be joined on the Unleashed podcast by Joe Zuccarello, who has played a big help in our operation here at Unleashed over the course of the last year plus now. Joe, I guess we've been talking. Gosh, we first talked in Orlando at a conference, and then I solicited your help, and you were amazing for us to redesign our grooming operation at Unleashed. And it's been great. Our grooming facility went from a closet to a whole big room with multiple stations and everything. So it's really been awesome. And I wanted to just have you start. You teach grooming now to everybody through Paragon Pet School. It's ParagonPetSchool.com is the website. And you instruct groomers, including one of ours. And it's just a fabulous thing. But you got your start actually doing it, kind of being in on it, and really running a big shop, didn't you? And having people come through. So there's a little bit of experience behind what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great to be part of the Unleashed podcast. So I started my career at the time of this podcast recording, which is December of 2023.
Yeah.
This coming February, I will start my 39th year in the pet industry. And
Wow.
I started as a teenage dog bather on Saturdays, right? Just a part-time gig for cash. And I was wet all day. I smelled all day. I was hairy all day. I was hot all day, and I couldn't even drive. So the owner of the shop would drive me to work and then pick me up from my home, drive me to work. We lived in the same subdivision, and then drive me home at the end of a Saturday. Right? So I was like an employee hostage,
Yeah.
But I remember, man, I was living high dog. I had $30 cash every Saturday. I was 13 years old, and I just thought I was, King Poobah. But
Yeah.
so I spent the first 22 years of my career in the full service pet care facilities. I had 60 dog groomers that worked for me. We did 100,000 grooming appointments a year. We could board about 600 dogs a night, had about 200 dogs a day in doggy daycare, 22 dog trainers. It was quite the operation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned
That's
a lot
insane.
about, in the first couple of decades of my career, about the pet care services business, including grooming, which you referenced earlier.
Yeah, and obviously, you've kind of seen it all, and we have too here at Unleashed. I think our groomer Amy is 20 years of experience herself, and so we've seen a lot of crazy things come in. The emergency calls about my dog got into it with X, Y, and Z, either rolled in poop or a skunk, or the dog that's matted from.
I've had that happen, right? So
What was that? The
porcupine. I've had that happen where dog comes in, got quills all in its face. Yeah.
Oh, haven't had that. Only seen that in movies, but but that's crazy. So let's just start with this. Let's say that I just have a typical golden retriever or lab. I guess those are two different things because you're not usually cutting lab's hair. But if you have a dog like a golden retriever or a longer haired dog that gets full grooms, that needs haircuts and trims, what is the general rule of thumb? Let's say you're just starting out with a puppy. How often should be getting that dog groomed?
One of the greatest part about professional groomers is that typically your professional groomer is going to have their hands on that dog even much more frequently even than the pet's veterinarian, right? Mm-hmm. So the pet goes and sees its vet once a year, maybe, unless something happens. But traditionally, during their healthiest of years, once a year, well, the groomer is going to see that dog a lot more than just once a year. So typically on a dog that is a haircut breed, a trimming breed, right? A dog that needs haircut that would otherwise grow out and get matted. Typically, we recommend every 4 to 6 weeks, no more really than every 8 weeks, depending on the breed. So somewhere between that 4 and 8 week mark is typically the most recommended.
And so, that's interesting because we certainly have customers that have exceeded that from time to time. What happens if you go beyond 8 or even, sometimes past 2-3 months? What can happen that we don't want to see?
Yeah, most of the time, the very first thing that's going to happen is the dog's going to start to get tangled, right? So it's going to start to get mats. And then those mats turn into knots. And then the knots turn into belts, right? But all along the way, a couple things are happening. The very first thing happens is that there's discomfort for that pet. Imagine obviously I don't have very long hair, nor do you, but if we had long hair and we were just gonna start to slowly twist it. And that's what happens when mats and tangles happen, is that we slowly start to twist the hair. Well, at a certain point, it's gonna start pulling on our scalp, on our skin, right? Well, the same thing happens with the dog. So the very first thing that starts to happen is discomfort for the dog. But as that gets tighter and tighter, less airflow can actually get to the coat or skin, which means then what you're facing is skin challenges, right? Skin irritations, dryness or dandruff with the pet's skin, all the way up to and including even what we call hot spots, where sometimes that skin can get pretty angry underneath there. And then just the overall hygiene, right? Just dirt and other debris that needs to be removed from that coat and skin in order to provide the dog the best hygiene health.
So I got to ask this, and maybe you have a good story. I don't know if you can conjure one up, because I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But I've had a couple of people come in who gave us the old, hey, I thought I'd try to groom my dog myself at home. And, oh, our groomer loves that one. So if you had people who tried to do that, and it seems to me like when people try to do that, they learn their lesson pretty quick.
Well, they do. And you know, and I give them an E for effort, right? You know, there's always a thing behind the thing. Why are they doing that? Maybe they're doing that to save $1. Maybe it's because they think they're going to enjoy it, right? We don't know what reason or what the thing behind the thing was. But most of the time I would liken it to I'm not mechanically inclined at all. I mean, I don't change my own oil. Listen, I would break something trying the simplest thing. It's just not my superpower, right? Well, for most pet parents, without proper training, I mean, in grooming, people don't just land on this planet and become a dog groomer. They don't just land here with the skills. That it takes a while, like any other trade or craft, like plumbing, you know, being a plumber or a welder or a finished carpenter or whatever. Grooming is a trade as well. So it's a skill that's learned over time and mastered over decades in some cases. The pet parents, they try, they do, but for whatever reason, most do fail. The best we can hope for is maybe they can help, you know, maintain some cleanliness, maybe through some regular bathing at home. But they don't even like to do the nail trimming. I don't even like to do. I know how to do it. I don't like to do my own dog's nails, right? So I think they get a much greater sense of value for the pet care professional, just like they would any other expert that you would pay to have your car's maintenance done or your motorcycle's oil changed or whatever those things. Sometimes it's just best left up to the experts.
Yeah, and you know, look, I mean, you know that not me and not you, but people with hair, real hair. I'm kind of deceiving you here. I don't have any up here. I'm just a camera angle, right? People with real hair, you know, whether it be men or women with long hair, they're not cutting their own hair by and large either, right? And that's just one tiny little piece of the human. That it's not covering the whole body that we're talking about with dogs. So, yeah, I think most people get that, and a lot of people certainly don't want to try it. But I've just always gotten a kick out of every now and then we'll get somebody who calls up going, can you help me? It's like, well, we can this time.
Remodeling shows on HGTV right now. Help! I wrecked my house. The same thing happens. I mean, the least trouble that can be caused if the dog doesn't look good because it's choppy or uneven. But we've seen customers accidentally injure their pet.
Right. Yep.
You know, and they don't want that association with their pet. So leave the grooming up to the grooming experts.
That's right. And you can do some, in all seriousness, we had someone try that just not too long ago, and it was a gash that they brought the dog in and for boarding, actually. They weren't even trying to get grooming. They were trying to, I don't know what they were really trying to do, but they tried to shave under his neck, and they cut him so deep that we had to turn him back to the owner and say, you got to get this guy to the vet. He needs stitches. So it wasn't good, right? And it can happen. So yeah, don't try this at home, I think is the moral of the story. And again, Joe, you mentioned the pet or the grooming school. I do want to reiterate that Paragon Pet School is the website. If you're watching this and you're thinking, I'd like to try my hand at this, go visit that website, check it out. If we're always looking at Unleashed as well for people who can get trained on the basics. There's a groom tech program that you start with that has the first level of training, and we are looking for people who can do that to help bathe and even do nail trims, sanitary trims, that type of stuff for dogs. You can get to know a little bit of an education and a skill set that is in huge demand, right? I mean, let's talk about that for just a minute. There are waiting lists in our local area that are weeks long, months long, and I'm sure you're seeing that nationwide. this is not an easy job to do. That's another thing that goes into this, that it takes a lot of learning, and then also, like you found out when you were 13, a lot of work. You do get dirty. You do get covered in water and hair all day and fur, and you got to love dogs. And fortunately, we have a lot of people that do love dogs. But that's again what Paragon Pet School is all about.
Yeah. So Paragon Pet School, we take the people. We like to say we work with the willing, right? Yeah. So if you're a pet lover, in many cases, we have a lot of people that will enroll in our program. It's all, it's brought to everybody online. So the education is brought to them, or with supportive employers like Unleashed, right? Mm-hmm. That are willing to actually sometimes fund somebody's beginning of their career in the pet grooming industry. I will tell you, being a professional pet groomer, there is no better time than right now. We have a lot of people that are career resets, right? The people that are like, listen, I don't like my job. Yeah. They went back to corporate America, or they're doing something, and it just doesn't geek them anymore, right? Yeah. We have a lot of career resets. We have a lot of young people that are graduating high school that they just don't know what direction in life they want to go, but they love animals, but they don't want to be a veterinarian because of maybe some of the doom and gloom of veterinary, of the veterinary practice. They just might not be cut off for that. Pet grooming, professional pet grooming, an average groomer with above average customer service skills can pretty much write their own check in this industry right now.
Yeah, and the money's not talking minimum wage here. We're talking decent money, and it is something valuable to look into. So I wanted to drop that side note as well, because certainly we as we grow at Unleashed too, we're going to be looking for more skilled people to help us out in that area. Let's talk a little bit about baths, because it still is an undertaking, and I think anybody who's owned a dog, say that for their entire life, maybe like me, even before I got into owning Unleashed, had many experiences trying to give my dog a bath, and it's not like just just take a quick shower. It's you're going to make a time commitment, and if you're in a northern climate, it's all that much harder if you're going to try and do it inside in the wintertime. So again, a lot easier just to drop your dog off with the groomer and in a grooming salon and just have it done for you, and probably better and better equipment to do it with. So. Let's talk about some basic breeds again. Just going back to the basics, Joe. How often would you say, is it that same kind of time scale if you just have an average house dog, or are we talking a little bit different time scale in terms of, let's say you have a Labrador Retriever or any breed of dog? How often should you be getting a bath?
Yeah, so non-trimming breeds, like we talked about trimming breeds earlier, the dogs whose coat continues to grow and can get tangled. Bath breeds need grooming hygiene as well. Right. Mm-hmm. So the labs, the pugs, some of the Goldens, the Chihuahuas, these guys, they need proper hygiene as well. So bath hygiene. So yes, you're right. If you do it at home, everybody's getting a bath, right? Yeah. I mean, the dog's getting a bath, the pet parent's getting a bath. I mean, in most cases, that's how it works. I like self washes. That's another opportunity. That's another alternative for people to, if they really want to bathe their own dog. They can take their dog. There's a variety of different self-washes, in most communities that they're available. But I will tell you, I still believe that a professional grooming environment is the best place to take your pet for a full service bath, right? Mm-hmm. Because usually, like at Unleashed, I mean, you've got the facilities, you've got the equipment, you've got the staff that's trained at different levels of their grooming career in order to do the most expert job, and really the best thing that your pet deserves. It's sort of an old wives' tale that, you can bathe it, don't bathe your pet, you don't bathe your pet, you'll rinse off the oils and, really, if you're using Dawn dishwashing detergent as your shampoo, maybe that holds true. But if you use a highly respected shampoo, a higher quality shampoo that you can buy either off the shelf or that I know places like Unleashed has, you take great care in your product selection, you can bathe the dog as often as you want to bathe the dog. Okay. As far as a routine, set them up for a monthly bath. At that point, they're also probably, in a full service bath, probably getting their nails trimmed, right? Good idea to also have them filed maybe. So nail trimming is usually included. Ear cleaning is usually included. So think about that once a month. Hygiene, not just a bath, but hygiene, because the groomers look, the groomer or groom techs, they're looking in their ears, they're cleaning them. If there's an ear infection, ear mites, something going wrong, they're going to find it. They're going to see it, and they're going to report it to you as a pet parent. The nail trimming, that quick in the nail does not like to be at the end of the nail. So regular nail trimming almost scares that quick backwards, right? It forces that quick to move backwards in the nail. And then you have less, dog tap dancing on the floor, and longer nails causes leg and foot problems as the dogs get older. So yeah, if you have a dog that's just what we call a wash and wear breed, like a lab or a pug, or just set them up, get them in once a month.
Yeah, and we do that all the time. We have people just set up their standing once a month bath, and it works out well, and it's super easy because you just, like any routine, like again, your own haircuts or whatever, your own, insert your appointment here. You can set that up for your dog, and obviously, we certainly do that at Unleashed, and I think it does benefit everybody involved. I wanted to ask you about nail trims, nail filings. Most people who do the full service bath add the nail filing with us at Unleashed, and it just makes a lot of sense because you're rounding out the edges. You're making the claws not sharp. If you just clip them, the snap clip, there's some risk involved in that, isn't there? Because we've seen some dogs who just get that, and then all of a sudden they come back maybe and they have a split nail. It can be more likely to split. But tell me about what you see as the advantage to doing a nail filing versus just a nail trim.
Yeah, so nail trims are great, but most of the time, even myself, when I trim a dog's nails or even my dog's nails, I'm afraid of hitting that quick.
Yeah.
Right. So I might leave a little bit more than what I probably should on the nail trim. Right. Well, so one thing filing does is filing. Usually the professional is going to use like a rotary tool with a special bit that actually sands that down, right? So it makes the ends of the nails shorter, smoother, and rounder, with the focus that, the focus word there is shorter. So if we want the nails to be as short as we can get them when we get the nails done, we should always have them filed, right? But smoother and rounder, yeah, it keeps any snagging is kept to a minimum, tearing or breaking is kept to a minimum. It's the most complete thing you can do for the nail treatment.
Yeah, and it turns out to be really good. Again, we just if you get your dog on a regular schedule for the nail filing, because it's shorter, you mentioned, and because you can keep that quick, retracted back a little bit, so you can keep them as short as can go, and you do it on a regular basis, you're going to definitely see the best results. And we certainly have a lot of our pet parents at Unleashed that understand that, and that's why they schedule those nail filings regularly. And it's good. Speaking of that, is we have a lot of people that do every 6 weeks. I mean, are you a proponent of that, Joe, or what time frame for that? We've talked about grooming, haircut, grooming, baths, and then obviously the pardon me, I had my phone glitch there. Haircuts, baths, and the nail trims. Are you thinking every 6 weeks, or does it depend on your own dog too, and how fast the nails will grow?
It's possible. It's not necessarily. I mean, yes, I guess some depends on the individual dog and how fast it grows. Most of the time, what we see is that dogs that have a lower amount of activity level, like those dogs' nails need to be trimmed more often because they're not doing it themselves. Now, of course, they're not sitting there with clippers and doing it. But when you take a dog, let's say you've got a Labrador Retriever and you're a runner, and you go out and you take your dog running with you, right? Your dog's going to go running with you, and they're actually their nails are going to be filed down from the pavement, from the sidewalk, from the concrete, right? Even sometimes through the woods, right? Just that activity files them down. Whereas then if you have let's say you've got a lazy old Shih Tzu, right, who doesn't really go out and do anything. He's just a skosh better than, a skosh more alive than a Build-A-Bear, right?
Yeah.
Well, they don't get that kind of activity, so they need their nails trimmed maybe even more often. Ben, people ask me about frequency, and I could go into all of the different variables, but really for the pet parents out there, if they really want the very best for their dog as far as health and preventative maintenance, and whether it be nails, whether it be a haircut, whether it be a bath, just get them to see the professional groomer once a month. Once a month. It's easy. It's routine. There's no guesswork. Your professional groomer like Unleashed will get you set up, on multiple appointments ahead of time. So you're not trying to, squeeze in time to try, oh my gosh, my dog looks terrible. And then you got a 2-week waiting list in order to get in and see the groomer.
Right.
So if you just schedule it monthly, I think that's the safest and really the best for everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's true because to your point, it takes all the kind of the mental work out of it. You just get it on kind of routine, schedule, dog's healthy, things are done. You're correct in saying we've had our groomer catch things like lumps or growths or ear infections plenty of times too. And that's super helpful, right? Because it's not always like you're at home, you get busy, your life gets busy. You don't remember to check under your dog's ears if you have those floppy-eared dogs where the infections can grow, and all of a sudden your groomer takes a look and it's, hot and red, and we got to get this dog to the vet. And it has happened certainly with us as well, and I'm sure you've experienced that in your time too. And again, it's just part of that protocol. It's a healthy checkup for sure.
And Ben too, I've had pet parents say a couple things. One is, well, first off, if they come in monthly, imagine if you could catch something after it started with only just a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, as many as 4 weeks, a lump or a bump on yourself. Mm-hmm. A mole that's sort of kind of changing color or size or whatever definition. If you could catch it in 4 weeks or waiting 8 weeks. So if something needed attention, wouldn't you want your pet to catch it sooner? So you give the pet the best chance of catching some things early, especially as they start to get older age, senior pets, right? Mm-hmm. But I've had pet parents say, well, I cannot afford, especially on the haircut dogs. Right. Yeah. I can't afford a full service grooming every 4 weeks. And I get that. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody has different, challenges, financial challenges and priorities in their lives. But even if you had a trim breed, a trim dog, let's say it was a poodle, right? A Havashon, Cavapoo, Doodle, whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, schedule them every other time. Right. Every other month is a bath. And on the alternate months is the haircut. So the bath is going to be a few dollars less on the alternate, on the non-haircut months, but still they get in and they get brushed, they get bathed, they get their ears cleaned, they get their nails trimmed and filed. So get them in for at least a bath every 4 weeks, and on the alternate months, every other month, they get a haircut.
Yeah, that is a great plan, and it's a great thing to think about if you're not only if you're cost conscious, which makes total sense, but if you're also thinking, well, I don't think they need a haircut every month. Right. So yeah, absolutely, give them a bath. I mean, again, as a human, you don't take 2 showers in 2 months. I hope you don't anyway. So maybe a little different, but still not all that different. So good to help your dog. Yeah, hygiene exactly.
Yeah, pets need it too.
Yeah, no question. So Joe, I want to ask you, before I let you go, we're going to talk about the doodle topic, because that's a whole category unto itself. And obviously doodles have just exploded in popularity, over the last, what would you say? You know better than me, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it's been.
Like the last 10 to 12 years have really come
10 to 12. Really. Okay. Yeah.
And we're just now starting to see some of the doodles being seniors.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's passing the doodle gene down. They are a special category when it comes to grooming. There's no question about it, because some of them obviously are bred to not shed, but the drawback of that is then they are more likely to mat and to have issues. And boy, we have seen some really bad cases of matting come in to our shop, doodles who haven't been groomed in months, maybe ever. And we've had no choice at our place but to shave them down to the skin and start over. And that happens for sure. So why don't you elaborate on that a little bit? Again, it's probably the same story. It's even more crucial for doodles, is it not, to just have that routine appointment? And then what do you do if your doodle is completely matted? Is there any way to avoid, depending on the severity of the mats, having to shave down?
Yeah. Doodles are, if you think about it, doodles are a very large mixed breed. Ultimately, right? That's the reason why we put doodle behind Golden Doodle, St. Bernard Doodle. The doodles are a large mixed breed. But what you get in that is you get a lot of different traits, a lot of gene traits that dictate coat, skin condition, behavior, size, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, it starts with the breeders, those folks out there that are breeding doodles, whatever the mix is, right? And listen, many of these dogs are really great dogs. So this is not a doodle slamming. This is just doodle reality, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the breeders, they don't have a history with all of those different characteristics and breed, the gene studies and everything else. They're taking 2 breeds and they're blending them. Mm-hmm. So you open yourself up to a variety of different challenges. Could be health challenges, could be behavior challenges, could be coat challenges, skin challenges, whatever, right? So, but by and large, right, I think most of the time the doodle breeders out there, it's unfortunate, but maybe they come up a little bit short in some cases of really defining expectations with the pet parent who's about to bring that dog home and make it part of its family, part of their family. But here's what I would encourage doodle owners to think about. Doodle pet parents need to understand that their dogs need grooming, that their dog's size, their need for grooming and their size and their personalities will carry a much larger price tag for grooming than the average Shih Tzu does. And that's just a reality. What I tell my pet parents out there, my clients that I work with, like you've been at Unleashed, is I let the pet parents decide. I give them choices. If, it's all about if then.
Yep.
If they want their pet to have a fluffy, more full-bodied coat, then we need to see that dog based on its traits, its personality, its coat condition, all of that, its size. We need to see that pet every X number of weeks. Let's say it's 2, 3, 4 weeks, right?
Yep.
If they want it to be full-bodied, fluffy like that, right? But if they need to wait longer for whatever reason, then they need to expect that the pet's coat is going to be it's going to require probably more of a low maintenance trim.
Yeah.
You see, I don't like to say shave downs necessarily, but it's a low maintenance trim. So I let the pet parent choose. If you want them fluffy every 2, 3, 4 weeks, if you want to go longer, then it's going to be shorter. And I let the pet parents choose. They're always in control.
That's right.
Because what happens is if we as professional pet groomers who are responsible for being the experts and guiding them, we get mad when we're faced with that dog that's unruly or its coat is so knotted and we go, oh, those darn pet parents. Well, we're the experts.
Yeah.
My mechanic doesn't get mad at me about the way I drive. He just fixes things when they break.
Yeah.
Right. So, or I run into something, right? He's not there to lecture me on how to drive, nor can we expect our pet parents to be groomers. So when pet parent says to us, I don't know how this happened. I brush my dog every day. Well, there's a couple things there, right? They may be telling you the truth. They just might not be doing it really well.
Right.
Okay. But we can't expect them to be grooming experts. That's our job. Okay. They may be lying to us. They may just be fibbing to us because they feel guilty about the dog's condition. It doesn't change the if-then conversation. Now, to your point, let's say we're a pet care provider, a pet groomer out there, or a pet parent, and we've let it go too long. Oh, right? We've let it go too long. Well, we may not be able to save that coat this time.
Yep.
But we then go into that, but if you want him to be fluffier, he needs to come. You see, it goes right back in an if then. Let the pet parents choose. Just give them appropriate choices and help them make a decision.
Yeah, and we've had that conversation a lot because it does happen. And, most people do understand. Hey, look, and our groomer will shave off the hair and then take a picture of the shaved coat and how matted it is. And it was unavoidable. But hey, how do we handle it from here forward? We never do any of that before we have the conversation, obviously, because you can't have a pet parent drop off a dog expecting a trim, and then all of a sudden they get a dog that looks, like 50 pounds lighter, because that's what happens when you shave a dog. All that hair goes away, and you're like, whoa. There was that little dog under all that hair, right? So that happens. But
surprises are only good during birthdays and holidays, right? So we should never surprise our customers.
Never surprise, right? No, exactly.
No.
But
I think what the pet parents need to understand is that sometimes it might not be communicated as well as what it could from professional groomers. But really, for the most part, your professional groomer really cares about the well-being of your dog. The well-being of your dog. If you feel like they don't care about the well-being of your dog, well, then you need to go somebody else. But I would say I am really happy, Ben, I'm sure experienced this. So I'm really happy to report that a vast majority of the people who are in the professional pet grooming space really care about those dogs.
Yeah, look, I mean, like I said before, the money is not minimum wage. It's good money that they make, but you also have to absolutely love dogs to be a full-time professional groomer. I mean, and that's the case with our groomer. she's always looking out and catching things, and it's wonderful. I value that so much as the owner of Unleashed, because I can the customers that pet parents that bring their dogs to us, they know that we care and that we're taking care, and I just love it. I just love to see it, because she puts her hands on the dog for 2 hours at a time. I mean, think about that, right? You'd catch a lot of stuff if you were doing that too, and so she does, and it's great. So before I let you go, then, Joe, and we'll have you on again in the future, because there's other things to talk about, shed control and specialty baths. We have healthy skin and coat treatment. We got to talk about all that stuff, because it's really great. What would you recommend in terms of the recommend? It's kind of like flossing now, right? How often should you floss? How often should you brush your dog out is a golden question, because that really can, if you do a good job, it can go a long way in helping to avoid some of the issues when you do end up at the groomers.
I am a pet parent of a Shih Tzu. Remember that lazy Shih Tzu I talked about earlier?
Yeah, that's yours.
That's a reference to my own dog, right? Yeah. He thinks he's a Build-A-Bear, right? Yeah. And I will tell you, I mean, he gets groomed every 4 weeks, and I'll brush him once every couple weeks, right? Now, again, he doesn't go out and get tangled. He doesn't, but we keep him, we keep him in a decent length. He doesn't get shaved down. He doesn't get put in a reset trim when he's groomed. But if you can brush your dogs, especially the main tangle areas, right? Like the ears, they're typically left longer. The tail's typically left longer. If every couple weeks you can at least try to run a brush or even a comb through it. But if you're not willing to commit or not interested in committing to that, just schedule. I know there's a lot of pet care professionals that'll even do maintenance brushing. Yep. Like every couple of weeks you can bring in just for a brush out, right? So the pet grooming experts are out there to be your partner. They're out there to be your partner in a pet's hygiene needs. Ask them what the options are, and a good pet care grooming partner will help to educate you. We don't expect you as a pet parent to be a good groomer, and for the most part, you're probably not going to be really good at it. I'm just saying, and that's
a lot of work. Yeah,
and that's okay. We don't expect you to be.
Yeah, I didn't get my golden retrievers so I could groom them. I got them so I could roughhouse with them, have fun, snuggle with them. I mean, that's what they're there for, right? You come home from a day of work, and the dog's there, and he's putting his head in your lap, and you're just like ruffling. It's great, right? And so, yes.
Unconditional love. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I have staff to bathe them. That's what I do. Every few weeks, I'm like, hey, can you give my guys a bath? And it's great. So no question. Long story short as well, I make my kids brush my dogs out, because why not? So if you have kids, you can do that. But usually, we have them spend several minutes doing it every so often. And the hair, almost always there's going to be a lot of hair that does come out, because you're running, like we have the Furminator, which is a great tool. So a lot of that hair will come out. And so there's always hair to come out. And we'll pick that up next time, Joe. But again, we have ParagonPetSchool.com is the website for you, Joe, at Paragon Pet Grooming. And again, 39 years. I can't believe that. It doesn't look that long, judging by your look. I'm just telling you. You look great.
I love you more and more every time I talk to you, Ben.
You're doing great. You're doing great. You can believe that I've owned a pet facility for 39 years, I'm sure, but it hasn't been that long. So, you got me there. But Joe, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. It's always great talking to you. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks again for having me, Ben.